If you didn't know any better, you would think we're in the famous Bachelor mansion, drinking great wine, enjoying beautiful food, and getting to know Bachelor star Jason Tartick. I had the chance to speak with Jason about his ties to Niagara, his time on the show, and how he found love. So you're a Buffalo boy,
yes,
and you're here in the Falls. How is it so far?
So it's so good to be back home. So I grew up in Williamsville, New York, and to have an opportunity to come back for something like this is pretty exciting. So, and not to mention mid-September, and the weather's fantastic. You gotta love it. It's a beautiful thing.
And back home you have like the Anchor Bar and all that stuff. So have you been bringing your lovely lady Caitlin around?
Yeah, so Caitlin couldn't come this time around because we have she has an event in Vegas this weekend at Life is Beautiful. She's doing a podcast for her Off the Vine podcast. So she couldn't come this time, but she's gonna come back She's gonna come back, and I think it's gonna be for a Bills home game. So we're working on that, but I'm thinking it might be in October for a Bills home game. Yeah.
Now, speaking of podcasts, I know a lot of the people in the Bachelorette Nation have podcasts about love and all of that. Do you think that you would have a podcast about like business and the economic side that you had in your background before?
Sure. So I think everyone has like different dynamics to what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I think what people do is they come off the show and they have a skill set before they went on the show, and they utilize that to bring to their network that they now created via the platform. For me, it was all in finance and accounting and business administration. So I'm working on a YouTube series, actually. It's not a podcast, but the whole concept is like restart. And the thing is that I could throw so many statistics out at a daily basis in our health, wealth, and happiness, in our pursuit of that. Everyone's having to hit restart at some point. So I was lost as a 20-year-old. I didn't know what I was doing, but it's okay not to know. But in our opinion, it's not okay to not learn from those who do know. So what we're gonna do is like interview all these prominent people. We're not curious about what it's like on top. We wanna know what it was like through the failures. Because those who have come up on top, the smallest detour put them in the position they're in. And to learn these life lessons has been amazing. And our first interview was with Caitlin. And I learned things about Caitlin that I actually didn't know at the time. And there's some crazy, crazy detours she took of roller coaster ups and downs that have put her where she is today. And it's something that like all of us can learn from. So not a podcast, but a YouTube series.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said before you were like a lost 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were in that stage of your life, what made you sign up for The Bachelorette?
So I was so focused on work, right? So I had moved 4 times for work, and I had moved from New York to Seattle. That was my last job promotion. And everything when I put the suit on was perfect. I had my identity, my title, and my office. And when I came back home and I took the suit off, I had nothing. And I kind of lost myself. And so when I had the opportunity to go on the show, I just realized everything I've worked for is what I want right now. It's everything I've asked for, but now I have this opportunity to pursue things that I've put aside that's really gonna drive my happiness. So for me, it was a tough predicament to be in, but I ended up selecting to go through that process, and as a result of that, Caitlin and I are now together. And it's again, just another detour in a life navigation, that simple decisions deter the outcome of what's going to happen, and it really I'm blessed to see what happened and where we are today, and just being here and today and talking about things.
And did you think that you would have made it, like you would have got this loyal fan base by being on the show?
So that's such a good question, because I thought for sure I was going home week 2. I thought 100% I was going home week 2, and as a result, you know, Becca and I hit it off, and things started developing, and I started to say, like, this isn't about like when you're going home or not going home. It's about, is there a relationship and a connection? And then even when I got off the show, the best part about it was I said when I went on, I said, all I need to do is leave the show saying I was myself. Like, so that, you know, you talk about editing and all this stuff. No, I was myself, and I left knowing I was myself. And as a result of that, there was a bit of a fan base, and I was just blown away. And I still like am pinching myself, like, what is happening? Like, why is this going on in the way it is? But I think the lesson there is you'll never appeal to everybody, ever. But if you could just stay true to yourself and stay in your lane, you can fall asleep at the end of the night like feeling good about what's going on. And that's how I feel. So, yeah.
Okay. And then you didn't go on Paradise, but what did you think about this year's season of Bachelor in Paradise?
Yeah, so I did go out. So I said, like, it was right before they announced The Bachelor, and I said, like, I hope I'm not in a position that I even have to go on Paradise next year. Unfortunately, I wasn't. Caitlin and I obviously met, and things worked out. But this Paradise was crazy, right? Because you saw someone like Blake, who was he was like the hero, the American sweetheart, and just a fall from grace given what happened. And then you saw people like Dean, who kind of had a rough go going on and ended up in this great relationship. So Paradise for me was like a roller coaster. You're seeing people who you've built relationships with because of the show go through this like high and low and high and low, and it's really, really tough for me to watch Paradise. It's tough for me to watch Paradise because I know these people and I see like the consequences of their actions and like everything that goes with it. So I really enjoyed watching Hannah's season. I loved watching Colton's season. I had a really, really, really tough time watching Paradise. And Caitlin and I would miss an episode, so we'd record it. And Caitlin, it would be before bed, and she's like, let's watch it. And candidly, and I haven't even talked about this, I wouldn't watch it because I'm like, I can't deal, for me, like the mental anguish of watching it before bed is a lot. Because these are people that like I have relationships with, their friends, like I care for them, and I'm seeing like all these highs and lows, and it was tough. It was tough for me to watch that. Yeah.
But are you happy with all the outcomes and engages and relationships that were built up throughout the season?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think Demi and Christian is like such a great thing for American and Canadian viewers to see, like, regardless of what your sexual orientation is. It's amazing that we have our first gay couple being out there showing their story, and for anyone that feels ashamed or is embarrassed to put that out there, hopefully this gives them the platform to be like, they're doing it in front of millions of people, and I can do it in front of 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, whatever it is. So I think it's such a great example, and their story is awesome, and they're great people. So that's my favorite couple. And then Dylan and Hannah, they're awesome, great. I've met them too, good people, and then I'm happy for everyone else that worked out. But those were my two favorite couples. Yeah.
Nice. And then after we saw Bachelor in Paradise, now we notice that Peter is now Bachelor. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. I think Peter, so I was up in the air. I really wanted Mike Johnson, but at the same time, I also wanted Peter. So for me, it was a win-win because they're both great people. It is Peter. Peter is a great, great guy. He's so down to earth. He's such a nice guy. And like he is like as open as a book right now. I think he's ready to find his next person. So I think we're going to see a good season. I think it's going to be entertaining. I think more importantly, like people are going to get to know Peter for more than what they saw on the windmill and everything else. And they're going to be like, this is just a really authentic, genuine, down-to-earth guy. He reminds me a lot of Ben Higgins.
Yeah,
he reminds me a lot.
Saying that.
Yeah. So he's a good one.
Okay, so you guys are here to see Jason, right?
We are.
And how long have you guys been watching the show?
Since the very beginning.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And so obviously he was on Becca's season. What about him stood out to you, where you would go to see him at events like this?
He was just a stand-up guy, and he was close to our country, Canada, and we fell in love with him when he fell in love with Caitlin, and we are actually a huge fan of hers. She's a Canadian girl, and we were actually hoping that she made a debut tonight, but based on her Insta story, she's still in Nashville. But yes, we're fans of both of them.
These events that always come up to Ruth Chris, who would you like to see next from Bachelor Nation make an appearance?
Chris Harrison. Chris Harrison. Yeah, I don't know who I would say. Probably Chris Harrison would be good. Or Caitlin.
Or Caitlin.
Yeah.
Chris would have all the juice, though.
Yeah. All the tea. Yeah.
All the tea.
It was another successful night filled with love, laughter, and fine dining at Ruth Chris. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled to see what Jason has coming in the near future. In Niagara Falls, reporting for The Source, I'm Asia Tomori.